meet as a council, and hope and pray that thy spirit will be with us as we make decisions that will affect the members of the Roosevelt City. We're grateful for this opportunity to serve, and hope and pray that the decisions we make will benefit all those within this community. We ask a special blessing on this community that we can overcome the virus that is affecting the nation, the pandemic, that we can work together as a community, come together as a community and help each other out, that we can use this time to grow stronger and make sure that we are prepared for things as they come, as well as things in the future. We're grateful for this land we live in. We're grateful for the freedoms and blessings we enjoy, and hope and pray that we will always have those blessings and freedoms with us. And again, we'd ask you to bless each of the members of Roosevelt City, the people working within this community, the people working in the city, the police, and all those here. And we're grateful for their service, and ask you to bless them, and say it's in the name of thy son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Has everyone had an opportunity to look through the minutes of our last meeting? And if so, are there any changes or amendments to those minutes?
I move we accept the minutes.
Motion by Councilman Lusenbart,
Second.
second by Councilman Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We do have our public comment period at the beginning of our meeting. Any of those in the audience may take up to 3 minutes. We'd ask that you address the council here at the pulpit and state your name. Are there any in attendance tonight that would like to take that opportunity? Yes.
There was I don't know if now's the time or not, but there was a lady who wanted to come. I know that she wants to come out. She told me to bring it up. We could do it at the end of the meeting and reports right to it now.
Yeah, let's do it now.
She, her name, she is a citizen of Roosevelt, and her name is Corey Queen. And she wanted me to bring up for her, since she couldn't be here, the possibility of Roosevelt putting into resolution basically the same thing Uinta County did to make them a sanctuary county for gun rights. She just wanted me to bring it up that she was in favor of it and she'd like to see the city do something about it. So,
Great. That's a good suggestion. Maybe we'll take a look into that and see what they did and why, and see if it's appropriate that we do. Thanks, Dave. Any others?
Do I need to, is this a good time for what we've discussed, or do you want me to wait and do that?
Probably in the council.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to sure. I'm good then.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move forward. We did have scheduled, and I have the old agenda, it looks like, but we had a public hearing that was scheduled tonight for Title II. And I have to apologize to Councilman Baird. This is something that he put on the agenda, and without thinking twice, with the pandemic and with everything that's going on with the coronavirus, made a decision after discussing with our city manager and others to forego the public hearing tonight, so that one, we wanted the transparency, wanted people to understand that we weren't trying to do something without public input or involvement, with the suggestions of sizes of groups and things like that, we just wanted to make sure that we weren't doing something without giving the public a fair chance to come and comment. And I apologize to Councilman Baird. That was not my intent to do that without asking, but I did, and so
we would have resulted in the same
yeah.
place anyway. It just was good to.
But that's a good reminder for us all. With the agenda, there is an opportunity for any councilman, the resolution states, to put anything on the agenda at any time for any reason. So, and that's that way for a reason. And so I apologize.
Just so we're aware, what's the time frame for putting it on the agenda. So, because if something comes up like a day before, 2 days before, is that enough time?
Usually we try to steer away from that just so that we have adequate time for the council to digest the information in those subjects and also the public. In that same resolution, it states that we are to get the information in a week in advance.
Okay.
So that the Monday, it would be preferable the Monday
The week before?
the week before. And that way, when Carolyn sends out the agenda, she's expecting to send the agenda out on Tuesday, and that'll give a full week for the council to study it and also be available for the public to look at. And so I would just ask that those things be on the.
And that's fine. I just wasn't aware of the time frame
Yeah.
for getting it on the agenda, so I thought that would be good to know.
Yep, absolutely. And maybe we can get a copy of that resolution and send out to the council. But I apologize to Councilman Baird for doing that. I should have visited with him, even though the end result would have been the same. And I want the council to understand that they do have the opportunity to add things to the agenda as long as we're trying to fit within that time frame. So, are any other thoughts on that? Questions on that? Okay. And Carolyn, you'll go ahead and get that resolution out. Perfect.
So are we planning to put that on the next agenda as long as things are somewhat back to normal?
What?
Public hearing?
Oh, yes. Not-
Yeah. Well, it's like I'm planning on, if we have a meeting with public, that we can do a public hearing.
Right,
Yeah.
I would just wonder if we can't, I mean, I would plan on it, but just know that there could be a possibility we have to postpone it again.
Mhm.
Well, here's what we'll do so we don't have to postpone it again. First of all, part of the reason why we postponed it as well is we don't have an ordinance or a resolution or anything to deal with electronic meetings.
Right.
So we didn't realize that. And now that we do, we visited a little bit with the city attorney. He's going to be preparing something for our next meeting. It doesn't have to be an ordinance. It can be a rule or a resolution so that we can approve even that night. But what that'll allow us to do is once we get that set, that'll present the guidelines of what parameters we work within with our electronic meetings. And we'll have that to present to the council next week. In the meantime, we'll be looking at different ways like Facebook. I know there's ways that you can do Facebook, live feed Facebook, and then have people ask questions or make comments on Facebook. One of the things that I've realized is when you do allow those comments to be a part of your meeting, you read them aloud. Sometimes that's a little dangerous because when people aren't here in the meeting, they can say things that we may not want to read in our meeting. So we have to be a little bit cautious, but under the circumstances, I say we go ahead and put this ordinance, this Title II back on. We do go through the procedure of advertising and everything else so that we can discuss it in our next meeting. We have our IT, and I think Andrew's been trying to be contacted. I don't know if they got a hold of him yet to figure out how to do that, but we'll make it to where even if people aren't able to come, they're able to comment and participate as if they were here. And so we can move forward, but we didn't have the time to get all that in place for
Right.
this meeting, but the next meeting we should have everything in place so that we can move
It
forward
might
with
be a
that.
good thing to put through our Roosevelt City page instead of a Facebook, but like the Roosevelt City page, have a way for people to access the meeting electronically and ask questions.
Even if we had a link on
Right,
our webpage.
that's what I'm saying, a link or
Kick 'em to
something
that.
on that.
Yep. So we'll have that all in place by the next meeting, and so I don't see a problem.
Thank you.
All right, next item is the FAA Airport Contract Change Order number 3. Ryan, do you want to let us know what that is?
Kimberly, who usually would have been here, decided not to come out, so. She came out in the airport, and then there was a huge bubble there, and we anyway, it scared her, so she went back home.
A huge bubble.
No one was getting around her.
Oh.
She came from the valley, so.
Oh, I see.
So she felt bad, and just, anyway.
Just tell her she has the corona with Lyme, she'll be fine.
So the change order 3, I kind of wanted to go out there anyway and see what it was about, and it's the infield grade work happening between the taxiway and the main landing strip. So there's a lot of debris and stuff that wasn't cleaned up, and they're gonna level it out and make it to where there's no rocks, so he can throw some seed in there and actually mow it without destroying equipment. And then there's a few areas where it's a little high. I guess it can't be over the crown of the runway, correct? You get airport guys.
You mean the debris or the dirt?
Yeah, the dirt, piles of stuff. So anyway, that's what that change order is all about. It's roughly 44,000. It's in your PO packet there.
How does that affect the overall project cost?
They're gonna try and keep it in that supplement fund.
Okay.
And if not, at worst, we gotta pay 10%. But if we get the airport done in time, and it'll be covered.
Next time they come out, I think it would be good, since Vince and I are kind of, well, I wouldn't say assigned, but tasked with the airport. I think it'd be good for us to meet with the engineers as well and just get a better understanding what's going on, especially where we're out there quite often.
Yeah, and they'll have weekly meetings
Oh, okay.
on how the project's going and stuff. So
When are they anticipating starting back up
okay, so
again?
phase 2 is gonna start on the 23rd, and it's just gonna be earthwork, because they're not gonna pave. They're not gonna pave until we're about 55 degrees and up. So when the low is at 55, they'll start paving, but next week they're gonna start doing everything else, so. Timeline, we're pushing to get them done by June. They're kind of acting funny about it, so there was kind of like a little war in there for a bit, but it just all depends on the weather. If it breaks good, we'll probably be done by June, which would be really good for us, so. As far as the funding goes, so. That's about all that she wanted to bring up, so. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to pay to seed it, are we? Nothing has ever grown in that dirt there, so I can't imagine.
It was part of the package, but I did talk to him about it because I thought in my mind, but yet I'm trying to look at it both ways, but I was thinking Xeriscape or something. So we don't need equipment
Yeah,
to maintain it. So it's something we're actually gonna bring to the table and look at down the road, because the seed, they were worried that it was even gonna grow.
well, and that's the thing. I don't think it would, but that would be important. I think in the next meeting, maybe if we could attend, that would be good to.
But one of the problems is the sand out there. I mean, you know that, there's
Mhm.
a pile of sand in the front door right now, so.
Well, I flew down to an airport in Colorado, and they used all the grindings from the old runway, and they've got a huge amount of that, and they actually
That would have been.
laid that down. It's still out there. There's huge piles of it, and then they laid that down instead of dirt, and that became like a dirt road between the two runways to keep.
You could spray for weeds every, twice a year, and
There's a lot. It's
That's something to think about. It's save cost too.
Yeah.
I worried about the maintenance. Because we're gonna need a brush hog and a tractor.
well, and if you spray weeds twice a year, if you put that down and then spray twice a year, you don't have to worry about it. It's besides the spraying, you're maintenance free.
There's probably, actually my normal job is reclamation in the oil field, and a lot of things don't grow very well out there either. There's probably some plants, if you want to come up, if you wanted to see some green there, there's probably some plants that I bet we could get to grow out there, but, because when you put down like recycled asphalt in an area, then it's almost like you'll never grow anything there. So if we want to head that direction, then I guess you could, never say never, but anyway, if there's an interest in getting something green out there, that's actually my area of expertise, so. I'm working with USGS and US Fish and Wildlife Service right now on a whole bunch of experiments out in the
So we
oil
could
field.
have a bunch of critters in our little island.
I don't know. So yeah, if you don't
It's a
want
prairie
it.
dog.
we
Yeah,
should do
yeah,
it.
I would say
I'd say
zero
zero
skate
skate.
because
Visibility
no
is
deer, no squirrels,
rabbits,
no
no
rabbits.
nothing.
I just bring it up because
And visibility is a big
Yeah.
thing too. You don't want things popping out of.
Yeah, they were really strict about having nothing above that crown.
Well, and that's because a low wing plane or something like that. I mean, your wingtips, some of those will extend past the runway, and you can't have stuff in the
Well,
way.
we'll go out, that's something we can discuss.
Okay.
We'll go over, we'll look at it, so. Anyway, that's all Kimberly had for me, so.
Cool. Any other thoughts? Okay, seeing none, would entertain a motion.
Move to accept the change order.
Second it.
I have a motion by Councilman Busenbark and a second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next, I have so basically tonight we have two committees. That's a little premature.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that was different. Anyway, we have two committees that we have to, they're due for appointments or reappointments. And that is the Economic Development Committee and also the Arts, Parks and Rec Committee. So those that are up now, and everyone has asked to be reappointed, so we will submit those names. But for the Arts, Parks and Rec Committee, we have Amy Snow, Steve Winters, Casey Anderson, Preston Cadlick, and Rhett Gilly, who are all currently up for reappointment. And then for the Economic Development Committee, we have Jim Marshall, Yankton Johnson, Adam Kessler, and Jerry Slight, who are all up for reappointment. And I would suggest to the council that we reappoint those, and that's who I would suggest for the appointments for those two chairs. Are there any questions or?
Has anyone else shown interest for any of those?
We do have a few showing some interest for the Economic Development Committee. When we did start that committee, the ones that are up for reappointment only had 1 year because we had to offset the appointments so that they all didn't come due at the same time. So a lot of these have only been on 1 year. So if I felt like since they've only had that long and it's usually a 3-year term that if they wanted to, we would just reappoint without looking. So I asked first to see if they wanted reappointed. Everyone said yes, that they would. And so we didn't even really advertise or anything else. We just thought we'd move forward. So,
They're doing a really good job too, by the way.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So, any other questions? Seeing none, would entertain a motion.
I'll make,
To approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman White and a second by Councilman Riley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and I can get you those names, Carolyn, again. You have them? Okay, perfect. All right, next item. We have the vehicle allowance policy. Who wants to talk about that one? That's something that we looked at the last meeting. We had some questions, had some comments. And
One of the questions was the insurance, I think, issue.
so do you want to take that, Ryan, or?
Yeah, so after our meeting last month, Randy called the trust and confirmed that the policy would be, it would fall on the employee and not the city. They'd become the primary, so they'd be using their insurance as the primary.
Is that even if they're on city business?
Yep. And that's even if they had people with them, like their family members or whoever, so. And we talked to Grant this morning, and it was the same way, so.
Does that put the city in a position of liability at all?
That's what we were trying to make sure, and that's what information they gave us was that it would be all separate from the city.
Yeah, because I know some business, like working for the school district, if you got hurt or worked in at the school, or you did something to the school was liable versus not, but it wasn't an insurance issue is the only thing, and that's what I was concerned about is the liability. So, but as long as they doing the vehicle and they're doing the insurance, it's on them regardless of city business or not.
So I guess in some situations, I know insurance companies will sue different places, you know, like
Right.
if there's a high bill, you know, and they feel like it's partially the city's responsibility, then they could sue us. And our insurance would be willing to step in that case. If something like that happened, I assume that our liability insurance as a city would cover that sort of thing.
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, Grant wasn't really concerned, but he was more than willing to be here, but we told him that he didn't have to be, but I mean, we can call him too if that would.
I think the thing that we can count on is that it won't make it so people don't try to get something from the
Right.
city.
Right. We're just trying to cover our bases. We don't
I
want
totally-
Roosevelt City to be on the hook for something they shouldn't be if we do this.
And that would all be taken care of by the trust. You know, they would defend the city against
Yeah.
frivolous lawsuits or.
In the policy, the biggest change was in C, section C. I don't know if you guys read it, but that was addressing the concerns about what vehicle and then, the inspections, safety inspections.
Also, wasn't there discussion, I thought Councilman earlier, someone talking about the type of vehicle, like,
That's right. Like a
seems like we had
four-wheel drive
discussion.
or whatever, you know what I mean?
I believe it's in
There was
there.
some minimum, I know you had put down, I think a truck was your bid estimate, as you were just kind of giving us some numbers, it seems like.
Right, and Grant put it in there as far as being, and I can't remember which section it was in actually. But anyway, it has to be approved through the city manager.
So they can't just buy,
All vehicles must be approved in advance by the city manager who's
That's good, because
authorized
that way he'd know if,
for the
Yeah,
job.
to impose
needed four-wheel
requirements
drive.
specific to job functions that be
In
eligible.
A, that's how he worded it. I explained it to him, but that's probably the correct way.
It may be something, just because like a truck is more expensive obviously than a car. And I would say that at some point in time, I think everybody that would be eligible at this point drives trucks. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And if it went any further than that, or if there was any question, somebody wanted to buy a car or something like that, I think might be something that we would talk about, the reimbursement, because currently it's 9,000, how much a year?
92.
92, and a car may be 72 or something like that. But I think that's something that we could look at in the future, knowing that this, if we did run into that problem in the future, then
Probably your difference vehicle right now currently would probably be the city manager.
yeah.
And, where he's going to meetings and stuff, I don't know. We used to have an SUV and that was actually perfect because you could put multiple people in there and still have the four-wheel drive, but anyway, that's probably gonna be the vehicle with the most difference from the others, so.
and how many people are eligible for this? You had it on the list, I thought,
So let's right,
7,
right there.
5.
5.
it'd be 6. You put the city manager on the bottom.
Okay. And they don't have to opt into this, this is just,
Yeah,
we're
correct.
not forcing them to do this, it's just,
It's optional.
Okay.
And everything's gotta be approved by the city manager.
and didn't you say this used to be a policy or something, and then it got kind of changed and taken away, or?
Yeah.
But this helps take us some of the liability and costs from the city and having to house the vehicles and.
I think it gives some flexibility to the employees too
Right.
that would use their city vehicle to go somewhere. This gives them the flexibility to have other people drive and not be
Yeah, the numbers that we punched, we tried to make it to where it was almost a wash.
Right. And the employees are responsible for keeping the vehicle clean, or will the city
No.
pay for car washes and stuff? That's all included in the allowance.
Employee, that.
As
that
well as
vehicle-
fuel, up to a 200, what did we put, 200 miles? So the employee has to pay for their own fuel up to 200 miles too. If they go to a conference that's over 200 miles, then
Okay.
they could be reimbursed for fuel for that. But if it's within 200 miles, they get to pay their own fuel.
And that's basically their vehicle when at the end, right? We don't have depreciation costs, we don't have to try to sell it, it's.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an advantage to them, but it's only those 6.
What do you think, Kurt?
If it's done this way, I don't think it's the employee's vehicle, because they're taking all the liability, so.
Right.
Hopefully we can get it.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So,
Yeah,
I like it. I think it's good.
yeah.
yes, Melissa.
Sorry, I just have one quick thought. When you, the positions that are listed for eligibility, it's the assistant city manager,
That's wrong.
which we should update
Yeah.
to the new job title, just a thought, sorry. Otherwise, you're gonna just need to revise it.
Yes, can we make that, we'll make that part of the motion. And that position would be the recorder / finance director.
Slash assistant city manager. No, I'm just.
No. The assistant city manager position's a fallacy. It was created. We will have somebody that will assume some of those responsibilities when the city manager's not available, but it won't be an actual, you're the assistant city manager position. It'll be a department head that
Right.
gets tagged with. Anyway, we'll talk about that in the future, but Dave Baird had some good ideas of how the federal government, the BLM, does chain of command type things like that. So
Perfect. Okay, yeah, we just,
but that's a
I think
good
should update it to the city recorder.
catch.
Is that okay? So just to be on the same page, so no assistant city recorder,
Mhm.
right?
And then addition of the city manager to the list.
Well, the city manager, you put on the bottom, the chief appointed officer or city manager with approval of the governing body, so.
I think the mayor should get one too.
You see where I'm looking?
You already
Yeah.
have one.
Yeah, so
Get reimbursed.
why is that a second?
I am getting reimbursed 12,000
Okay.
instead of 9,200.
All right.
How do you complain?
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts?
Well, I'd move to approve it with the change of assistant city manager being changed to reflect the finance director / whatever job we fill that with. Recorder.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll
So-
second it.
Motion or a second by Councilman Busenbark, yes?
One question, when will this go into effect?
I would personally suggest June being our fiscal year. I would just say, get it ready for June so
We
that
need to
it's
add
ready.
that
to-
amend-
They have a line right there, was made effective as of, they just have to fill it.
Yeah.
So we need to make another motion?
Just
You could amend to the motion.
Okay.
Just amendment.
Mayor,
All right.
we want to do July 1st, that's 2020, because that's the beginning of the. new
Okay,
school year.
July 1st. Thank you. So would you like to amend your motion?
Carolyn said we didn't need to.
Okay, it's amended.
And I still second it.
And we still have a second by Councilman Busenbark.
Booze is fine, everyone knows who you're talking about.
And let's go for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
I can send out
Looks
the
like
new one if you want. When it's updated, so.
perfect. Thank you. Bid award, 500 East Sidewalk Project. Is that,
That's me.
all right, we'll give you some time. Tell us who you are, just so there's some new councilmen.
Yes, council members, I'm Troy Osler with Citgo Engineering.
And I'm the president of Collection, so if there's any other issues, it all stops here. But anyway, we had a bid opening. This is a project that is funded through the CDBG program that Roosevelt City applied for a year ago and was chosen for this project, which is to put in sidewalks and some street lights and that along 500 East between Lagoon and Fish South. And so this project was put together and it was bid on March the 5th here at the city offices. And at that meeting, we had 3 bidders. We had Farnsworth Excavation in the amount of $178,571.83. Maverick Contractors at $253,645.20. And CKC Asphalt at $304,119. The engineer's estimate on the project, we expected it to come in around $220,000. It was $220,648. And so with that, we submitted the name of Farnsworth Excavation to the state, to the CDBG office, and the mayor received a letter back that authorized the council to award this project, if you so desire, to Farnsworth Excavation. And it's our recommendation from previous work history with Mr. Farnsworth, who's here with us tonight, that we would award this project to him and get started.
Great.
And I'm just here to answer any questions you may have about it.
Do you have any questions?
Oh, I live on that street, so, yeah, I'm curious because some of the driveways and things, you know, the elevation of the driveway or the slope of the driveway may not line up with how the sidewalk, the elevation of the sidewalk. Are they gonna tip the sidewalk in those places, or are they gonna just go straight across and have, maybe take out a little bit more of the driveway so people can?
It's set up to adjust the driveway so that the sidewalks will stay consistent, so they all stay ADA compliant.
Okay.
With cross slope. And so the difference in elevation will be taken out in the driveways themselves. We have items for gravel driveways, paved driveways, and that, so that we can adjust those to match the sidewalk.
Okay, and will it be the homeowner's responsibility to fill that in with concrete?
No, that is part of the project.
Okay.
We're going to take care of matching those driveways as
Okay.
part of the project.
Okay. And then another question, water meters, I've noticed they're all right there next to the road. You're gonna have to move all of them.
We're gonna have to move a majority of them.
Oh,
Not necessarily all of them, but we will be adjusting water meters, we'll be adjusting secondary water, we'll be doing numerous of those things. There's 3 or 4 lawns that we're actually going to be encroaching upon, existing landscaping, and we're going to have to redo the sprinkler system to move it just behind our sidewalk. And that is all figured into the project.
okay. And then, when you move those water meters, some people have, you know, I guess actually every home has, at least where I'm at, there's a secondary water and then there's your primary water, culinary. And right now they're 2 separate meters. I noticed in the painting, I know it's just kind of a sketch right now, but, are there gonna be 2 separate meters still,
They
right?
will continue to be 2 separate meters. They function that way.
Yeah, that's just well, I mean, in 2 different boxes.
Yes.
Okay,
The plan is just to have those boxes be the city standard boxes, which would be separate boxes for them, and they would just be relocated outside of the sidewalk, or raised to the right elevation, or whatever may need to happen with those as part of the project.
sounds great.
It's just for both sides of the street. There's no sidewalk
It's
on
just gonna
any.
be on the east side. I gotta stop making corrections here, on the east side.
Any other questions?
Said Lagoon to, is it 300 south?
Just so.
I think the idea, the reason why I ran into it this way, because I've checked into it, because as a councilman on that side of the road, I was concerned that people would, you know, after it was all awarded and everything else.
Where is this?
I brought up to him that,
Centennial Elementary.
that's my side of the
Keep
street
going
and the other
north
side
from
doesn't
there.
have sidewalks, and that doesn't look good for me, you know, because people think that they're doing things, special favors for me, but And so I asked him the reasons why this was,
So this right here?
Probably. Why we didn't go on that side of the road. And he said, because there was more continuity, and the whole goal was to get it from Centennial Elementary to the high school walking path so they could make it all the way.
That's right, and the right of way was more consistent, and it was a better location, just to be able to build it and keep the costs in line with what we could get through CDBG. But
Okay.
It was evaluated and looked at, and there's many engineering reasons and right of way reasons and that was put on the east side of the road to make this work.
What's the timeline on this?
The timeline on this is if you select the contractor tonight, we're gonna get a contract in place and get him going to work here in the next, I'm gonna say, 2 to 3 weeks away. That's what we talked about, was beginning this project, whether it'll be turned or it'll be good. And we won't have to blanket or heat concrete at that point, we hope. We hope we're out of winter. But it'll be there, and if I remember correctly, I think it's about a 2-month-long project that it'll take.
And tell me your first name.
Keith.
Keith. I'm sure you have experience in doing these types of things. What's a project that you may have done just recently to?
So as a matter of fact, I'm just finishing up a project that I did for Citco, up in Utah. We piped an existing canal so we piped an existing dirt canal and we had to do a lot of cement like that. And I don't know if you're familiar with Duchesne, but there's a new quick lube over there that pit, tire and lube. So that's my brother, but I was the primary contractor on that as well. $850,000 shop, so.
Okay.
Actually, I've had some experience in
Great.
bigger projects like this.
Perfect.
And actually, we're just pouring concrete.
Yeah, we're gonna pour
Concrete head walls on that canal project, so
Excellent.
we're doing concrete work with Keith. I'm gonna say as we speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Good deal. Any other questions from the council? Seeing none, would entertain a motion.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman White and a second by Councilman Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Perfect, thank you very much. We'll get the notice of award letter and contracts over to you tomorrow, Keith.
Thanks so much.
And we'll send you copies. I'm going there. I'll reduce the size of the meeting.
Yeah, keep your distance. Next item that we have is the city recorder position selection. So do you want to bring that PDF that I sent to you up? So we had several, did everybody get a chance to? We had several applicants. Melissa, how many did we end up overall? Did we narrow down from? Over 30 applicants.
Over 30.
And narrowed that down to what, 6, half a dozen, I think?
Yeah, I think we interviewed 6.
And through that process, we narrowed it down to 1. We had myself, Ryan, Kirby, Dave Baird was part of that. And Melissa obviously was part of that. And so we went through those applications. We had the 6 interviews. And of those 6 interviews, we felt like 1 was an obvious choice. And so there's been some conversation between Melissa and Kurt, and that's part of the reason he's here, over the last week, talking about finances and what would be a reasonable salary. So one of the things I did in those conversations, and we're just going to do this all in open meeting unless somebody feels like we need to go into closed session. The only reason we would do that is if there is any question of character or those types of things that would come up, and then we could go into closed session. But otherwise, this is new for Roosevelt City, doing all this wide out in the open, but that's the way it should be done. So it was discussed initially to offer $85,000. Once the offer was made to Kurt, he looked at what he was currently making with the benefits that he had and put a pencil to it and said that that was less than what he would be making at this point. So I took he came back with a counter offer at 96,000, which I don't think was unreasonable, but I wanted to make sure what we were getting ourselves into. So I went and looked at all of these cities. I went online to see what cities had a population approximate of Roosevelt City. And I got a handful, as you can see, to compare what wages they were paying and to see if that fit in line with what was being asked. If you go scroll down just a little bit, it'll show an average right there. So the average, the median is 95,479 between all those cities, which is reasonable. One thing that I have to say is Kurt has 11 and a half years experience with UBAG. He's been in, well, Kurt, why don't you come up and you explain to us some of your experience? We'll let you do that first.
First of all, thank you. I'm glad to be here. As the mayor said, I've been working as the chief financial officer with the Uinta Basin Association of Governments since July of 2008. As the mayor knows, we deal with a lot of complex grants and different things, and I believe the experience I have not only will help Roosevelt City continue on their current path, but I think I might be able to come bring in some ideas for some, potential grant funding. I've experienced 11 and a half years of dealing with grants. So if there's a grant that's offered in the Uinta Basin, then I'm familiar with it. I love living here in Roosevelt. I'm a native Uinta Basinite, so to speak. I grew up in Altamont. Then I went to the University of Utah. I worked along the Wasatch Front until 2008. And I've been at the UBAG since then. I love what I do at UBAG. I love my coworkers. So this is actually a difficult decision for me because of the environment where I work and the elected officials I deal with from the 3 counties. So how many questions for me? That's pretty much all I have to say.
Do you have any questions?
And I know
Kurt?
Councilman White too. We played football in high school together, so we've known each other a long time.
Nice. One of the things that I would like to say is I've worked with Kurt especially in the last couple of years, and I think he has to know that I checked several references, not only references of people I knew that knew him, that didn't know the situation, and because I wanted to get a completely objective point of view. So I contacted various people, and I got nothing but positive, to be honest. And with people that currently work with Roosevelt City, with our finances, with our audits, work with Kurt currently with their finances, with their audits, and had nothing but good to say. So,
With the little time I had to get to know you in the interview with these other guys, I saw I saw that at least my feel is that with you we could really hit the ground running and just keep moving forward with some great progress, and I believe he's very experienced in everything that would be required for this job. So,
And if I may say, Randy, all accounts, is doing an outstanding job too. So
yeah.
it'd be nice to work with Randy. That will help that transition be much smoother.
And Randy was another one that we really considered. There's some things that we would like to do with Randy. There's a couple of things that we need to correct as far as officially appointing Randy, doing some other things. And I think Randy's definitely needs a pat on the back for everything he's done. And we'll talk about that in the future. But again, as Councilman Baird said, Kurt's ready to hit the ground running. We won't even miss a beat. The complexity of the accounts that he has and compared to Roosevelt, I don't think there's going to be any issue there. So
he has experience preparing budgets.
I hope so.
Actually, I'm working on one we have to do for you back next week. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow.
Just clarifying, you're just looking at the average salary. The benefits are all about the same because it's
Very-
insurance and,
Right, and some of the benefits are different, and that's part of that was part of the offset with UBAG versus Roosevelt City, is some of the benefits he gets at UBAG are better than what he gets at Roosevelt, so he would have to make,
right. Oh, I
increase
understand
the,
that.
yeah.
I
so-
changed jobs not too long ago too, I understand.
Yeah, so no city's exactly the same, as you can see, no entity's
Right.
exactly the same, you can, the proportion of benefits to salary it's close, but it's not.
So I guess my question is, because you talked about 96 was as a number, I assume that's the gross salary.
Correct.
The benefit,
Would be what our normal benefit package would be for. an
right,
employee.
and is that gonna still, is that okay with you? Have you looked at that?
Yeah, as the mayor said, I wanted to compare apples and apples, and it took the better part of a day with my wife and I talking things over and crunching some numbers, and that's what we came to. And I would anticipate the benefits would be probably in the 40% of salary, give or take.
You can
Right.
see right there, so John Zillis, I did throw him up there. 97,640 is what he made gross in 2019. He did get 2,929 in bonuses, I'm assuming Christmas bonuses, et cetera. And then the 45,684 is his benefit package. So it's about a 45% ratio.
Right. Good math.
Thanks. I do like math and spreadsheets and numbers.
That's a lot. Didn't get it from me, but.
Yeah. But anyway, as you can see, you have some Moabs really high. And then I tried to also point out too, you have some that are recorders, some that are only finance directors, some that are finance/recorders like we're doing, which is really what state law says. We can have a separate finance, but Moab has both. And then some of them, it's just one person. So you have Salem, you have South Weber. That's just the finance. But anyway, as far as demographics or population, they're really close, within a few hundred people, except for Vernal is the largest on there, actually, and they're 98 and 50. But
Can I just say, I appreciate the comparison there. I think that's very helpful in making the decision as opposed to trying to make one without. I think that's very important. So I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate that I think that was helpful.
thank you. Any other questions? Seeing,
I move we get him.
okay, so I was gonna say, seeing none, I suggest to the council, my appointment would be Kurt, and now I need ratification. So we have a motion to ratify by Councilman Busenbark and a second by Councilman Baird. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now the question is, will you accept?
Yes,
Okay,
I will gratefully accept it.
and thank you, Kurt. Now, Lori's gonna be heartbroken.
She's gonna wanna talk to you. She's asked
I tried to,
that I try to work, that you talk with her, because it's gonna be a difficult transition for you back too.
yeah, I went in UBAG 3 different times in the last week. No lie, you can ask the front desk and missed her every single time. And the last time I went in, I found out that I was supposed to be to a meeting in Vernal that I had no idea about. So it was kind of fortunate that I did go in, but I have attempted, because I knew I have talked to Kevin. I knew she would be, we'll
She's
have to
very
work out the
supportive.
details.
But I think, if I may be so bold, I think she knows the 11 and a half years of experience I have are gonna be difficult to replace,
Yeah.
especially right away.
And Kevin mentioned that it's going to take some time. So do you have an anticipated?
I spoke with Melissa earlier today. I would be available as early as April 6th. Preferably, I'd like to begin in the beginning of a pay period, just make things a whole lot easier. And my wife and I are expecting a baby at the end of April, so I've talked with Lori. I probably wouldn't enroll in Roosevelt City's insurance until after that.
Okay. So are we looking at, you said April 6th?
That would be my first available date, because I'd like to give at least 2 weeks to be back.
Well, yeah, I think that's more than fair, and I'll check with Randy and see when the pay period would start? Maybe you already know, I don't
I
know.
don't, and that's what I was trying to find out to coordinate, but I wanted to get through this.
We'll get with you tomorrow
first.
and let you know exactly when that pay period will be, and then we'll just plan on you starting whenever that first pay period is in April,
Perfect.
as long as it's after the 6th.
Yes, yes.
I just want you to know I'm a lone voice, but I'm not a U of U person, so.
Can I just say, I graduated from the U, but I remember when, I was a big BYU football fan, so I remember when you played
Oh, well, thank you.
football.
I enjoyed my time there under LaBelle and had a great experience. And I actually am friends with Kyle Whittingham, by the way, so.
And if I must say, my wife, really enjoyed working with you. Danica Foley.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can't ever beat them.
She did a great job.
Back then.
JR,
Yes, sir.
the payroll starts on the 6th.
Okay.
That week of that.
6th, I'll
Perfect.
be there.
All right. And we understand if there's some, a little bit of transition even after that,
Thank you.
you know.
And that, if you would tell Lori that.
I'll tell Lori, hey, if she'll help us with grants, we'll do whatever. You know what? UBAG's been really awesome. And I, on the record, working with Lori, and that they don't get the credit that they deserve over there. They help us out a ton, and a lot of time goes thankless and unnoticed. But that's not going to happen anymore.
They have a lot
So-
of people in the community too, so.
Yeah.
It's good.
They're way more involved in the money that Roosevelt gets as far as grants and those types of things than anybody knows. But I'm sure that Kurt will have no problem making sure that we know that as we're going through. And
Yeah,
we
thank
appreciate
you.
that. So thanks, Kurt, for being here, and congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank
We're
you.
excited.
I'm excited for the opportunity, and actually, if it's all right, because I wasn't planning on being here, my family and I have some other things.
You better buzz out.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks.
See you on the 6th.
Yep, so you can have you board, Kurt, yep.
Thank you.
All right, that was the last. We had the purchase orders. Go
I had
down.
just a couple of questions. Actually, I had three. The Ascend Aviation Group, it says jet fuel, aviation gasoline. We have to buy it and then we sell it so we just have to make sure we have it on hand and then sell it to the people that are using it. And how often do we purchase that to have it on hand?
Well, it's the first time since I've been in here.
Well, I just was curious. I'm not I'm just curious more. than-
So,
One of the-
so I'm
Go ahead,
working with
Dennis.
Ryan. We're gonna try and, it's kind of fallen through the cracks. Like being able to pull up a quick report and say, who is our biggest user? Who do we need to
Right.
invite back to Roosevelt Airport by giving them free golf? Things like that. So who's buying the gas? Where's it going? What we're turning for a profit and putting all those numbers together. So we're working on that. And that's what we're gonna have in the future so that we can,
I think
answer
that's
those
great because I
questions.
saw that and I was just curious. I assumed we were selling, but I just wanted
I had the
to,
same
but I know we have
question.
to buy it
Yeah.
first and then we can sell it to those using it. And I think that's a great.
And can we contract with somebody else? Is there
Right,
a
yeah.
possibility for that? Or
And I'm not, I'm fine with that. The change order, you mentioned earlier, that you thought that would come out of
It's the funding that we already have. to go
right,
for the
and
boiler
if
for,
we
which
get it
is-
done quicker, we'd probably be okay, so.
Yeah. and
But we
that's-
have to write, because there's not a PO or anything with it, but we have to pay that up front.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, but we send in for reimbursements on everything
okay,
on
That's
that.
how
And
that
that's about
works.
a little over $9 million project. Is that
Okay.
correct, Mayor?
Yeah.
yeah. I remember that part. I know you'd mentioned it, and then I was seeing it on here, and I just wanted to verify that what I was thinking is that we paid it and then, but we'll get reimbursed and stuff, because you were saying we probably wouldn't cost us anything, maybe, and if it did, it was just 10%, right?
Yeah,
What you said?
at worst, yeah.
At worst, so, okay. And then the last question, which is not related, but was last month, that we talked about the fire, was it the oxygen or the tanks or?
The SCBA.
Did we ever get a report on if they got, because I know, remember they put in extra to try to see if they could get maybe one or two based on the price?
Yeah, I think you got one extra.
Okay.
They haven't came in yet, but I believe.
No, but we approved it. I was just
Yeah,
following up on the
Yeah.
fact, because I had asked about it, trying to figure out what the numbers were, and I was just following up on that. Just letting you know, I am paying attention and I'm not, and I do like numbers, believe it or not. I know
Just
that's
not
kinda hard to
spreadsheets.
believe. So I like numbers and spreadsheets too, just like Mayor Bird, but you know what I'm saying? I just was in my mind thinking, whatever happened, did we get those? Did we get the extra one or two? Because I remember the bid was,
One more on.
I thought one more, but I couldn't remember.
We
And
got one extra, but it's in route, so I don't know if we physically got it yet, but.
well, that's good because it was stuff we needed and it looked like it was good, like good pricing at that point or something.
Yeah.
And so, okay, that was my questions on those. Thank you.
Since this is a public meeting, can I just make an announcement about what's going on in the hospital for people showing up? Because it'll,
Would you be able to do that in your report? In a minute? In just 1 minute?
Yeah.
Okay. We will, so as far as the purchase orders, are there any other questions as far as the purchase orders go?
Sorry, I had so many, but.
No, that's
That's
fine.
good.
No, that's good. Seeing none, would entertain a motion.
Move to approve?
second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilman White and a second by Councilman Riley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Reports from standing committees. Do you have anything for us?
Went to the Parks and Recreation meeting. The last one we had here, they discussed the Missoula Children's Theater and the cost, and Mayor Bird and I are in agreement that while it's a great program, it's not benefiting what we feel, the cost per person involved is a little bit, we feel a little bit prohibitive, and we recommended looking down the road, but because it's late in the year and they plan, they're going to go ahead and do that. It was brought up by some others about the July 4th and some of the other activities. They're still working. I know Rhett Gilly, not Rhett, is it Rhett Gilly?
Yeah, right.
Rhett was working on the trails, and they were trying to get with one person. Unfortunately, they were not. It was brothers that own it or something.
It was a trust and.
A trust, and one was like all for it, and the other two weren't at the meeting and were anti, and so we didn't get approval for the right of way or the whatever the
Easement, yeah.
Easement, thank you. I couldn't think of the correct word. They've got another one, but there's still an easement, but they think they can get that one. But it's one we already have partially down by, is it south at Centennial or something? There's one.
Yeah, there's a current bike track in town.
Right, in town. This other one was Ballard area that we were looking at. So they're working on trying to get those, the mountain biking. And they've got, Mark Winterton wasn't there, but they were in contact with him about, they've got the July 4th entertainment. And it was mentioned about the budgets for those programs. And I think they've got a lot of things covered. I don't know was there anything else, Mayor Bird?
Yep. The only thing I can think of is a couple things is, one of the things that was brought up is, so the Arts Council has gotten $20,000 to run that program in the past. And that did take care of the Missoula and take care of some of the expenses for the 4th of July, like the entertainment. However, it didn't really take care of the Red Mud Run, nor did it take care of the fireworks and all those other things. And then we have UBIC, and then we have fireworks for UBIC, and we have all of that. And so one of the things that hopefully Kurt will help us with, and Randy can as well, is the $20,000 that we've allotted that committee and the things that we're asking them to do with it, it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
The math is
But
not there.
all that stuff wasn't initially taken care of by that 20,000. So we just have to
Exactly.
get it.
And so what we wanted to do is in the future, here fairly soon, when Kurt comes on and those types of things, and we have some time, especially if we could get it done before the next fiscal year, which would be July 1st. It'll be coming before council. We'll have an accounting of all the expenditures for our recreation. And right now it's just, and you can add, Ryan Claiborne will attest to this. It's just kind of pulled out of different
Wherever,
funds
yeah.
and wherever. And there's really no good accounting of of just the recreation. And so we're going to pull all that together so we can see it in one spot. The Arts, Parks and Rec Committee will be along with that, and they're 20,000. But if they are assuming the responsibility for 4th of July, which they will, and the Red Mud Run, which they will, then we will adjust the budget accordingly so that they'll have the money to fund those things. That doesn't really affect the original 20,000 that they had. But all of it will be budgeted out so that it'll be easy for people to see and in the same area instead of pulling a little from here and a little from there. It'll all be consolidated down, so it'll be very easy to see what we're spending on all of our recreation, and then we can adjust the budget at that time. That was one of the things.
It was also brought up about on the budget, if they bring money in, like they're charging, that would go back to
Right.
theirs as well.
If they can net a profit on the things they're doing, I feel like they deserve to keep that money in their pool, and then that will pay for bigger and better events in the future that really they'll be supplemented somewhat because we're still going to give the 5,000 a year to each subcommittee, but the bigger and better things that they can do with that will be funded by the participants of those particular events or sports or whatever they may be
Also,
doing.
baseball and softball were brought up as well, at least that they're in the planning stages. So I think they're working on some of those. But that's all I can remember on that, on the Parks and Recreation. I think there might have been
Yeah.
another thing. I also went to planning and zoning, but if you want, was there anything else on parks that we need to?
Not that I can think of.
I have to say, I was very impressed with the committee, the group there for the Parks and Rec. I felt like they were definitely people passionate in their own area, whether it was, arts or recreation stuff, and really wanted to help move the city and help the people. And so I applaud them. I told them that, and I know Mayor Bird did as well. And I just appreciated having that committee. And I think if we can get them going and get that money for them so they can make those decisions and stuff, I think it's gonna be good. So overall, it was, I enjoyed the meeting. It was a good meeting. I thought it was very productive. But they're all, one of the things I noticed is they're all like deer in the headlights because they're all kind of still new and kind of feeling their way through this. And so I think it's good if councilman and the mayor can be there at times to at least answer some of their questions, but we want to give them license to do what they need to. So which leads me to planning and zoning, which I thought was a great meeting because I think that Mayor Bird went through kind of the code and talked about kind of the expectations of the planning and zoning, and that really planning and zoning should be the first yay or nay, and what they decide, that's it, unless, people want to, somehow dispute it, then they can come to us and we can discuss it. But my feeling is if we have a planning and zoning working and they're good planning and zoning, I'm not gonna not back them unless there's some really bizarre extenuating, circumstance. But I think they appreciated the fact that they felt supported and that they could be that decision-making entity as opposed to, making some yay or nay and thinking that they're gonna get voted down by the council at some point. So anyway, I thought that was a good meeting. There wasn't, I don't think there was any planning and zoning issues as much as just talking about the code and what we should be doing and what the expectation is. And so for me, I thought it was really good, especially because there's a couple of new members on there that I think weren't aware, and I think that'll help them going forward, knowing what the expectations are from the council and for them as a planning and zoning board. So that's all I had from my two committees. I went to the meetings last week.
Do you want to mention just a bit? Yeah.
So Mayor Bird and I at the Parks and Recreation, Philip Bertosh, who's on the Parks and Recreation, mentioned that the school board and Mayor Bird had stepped out. And so Philip grabbed me and just said there was a concern about the water bill. I talked to Ryan Claiborne about it as well. And I'm glad I did because he provided kind of the same information that the superintendent. So then the superintendent set up a meeting with Mayor Bird, myself, and the Philip Bertosh, and we just discussed the Centennial Park and some of the issues there. And we're working on we don't have a lot of details right now. There's some, Mayor Bird and I have thoughts that we have, but we'd like to visit with the city people, the city workers that are involved with that, as well as some others, and kind of come up with a plan, I think, of attack for Centennial Park and what would be best for Roosevelt as well for the school district. I think there's two big issues. One, the superintendent felt like we're kind of nickel and diming for garbage bags and stuff, but yet they go and fix sprinklers and, and then the water, I think he was a little concerned just because I don't think Centennial Elementary uses as much water when we're charging 50%. And the sprinklers are probably using a lion's share of that water, during the summertime. And so there's some things we can look at. We also talked about the sports teams, the golf and the swimming, and using the pool and the golf. And I really feel like our swimming pool is underutilized a little bit, and I think if we could somehow get the kids in there a little bit more with a way to get them in, they'll want to come back, and that's where they'll pay. You know what I'm saying? And so Mayor Bird Mayor Bird had an idea, which I applaud. If he wants to share, I'll let him share. But I just thought that if we can get more kids in there and maybe do something that way, would be good. So I thought it was a good meeting. It was an interesting meeting, and I don't know that they're thinking everything through. And so I think it's good that we visit with the folks in the city. We can discuss it at a council once we have better information to present, and then I think we can go forward and actually come out ahead personally. That's how I felt. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I will in just a minute. Well, I'll add now. So one of the things that we were talking, first of all, Cody, we need to get you, Councilman Allen, we need to get you involved with those meetings as well, with the parks, and not with you've been here to that one, but with the discussion on Centennial and those types of things. So next time we have a meeting, we'll do that. One of the things that we'd like to do is visit with the staff. I already kind of have an idea of what the staff would like, but we'll navigate that and figure out what's best in both parties' interest. And then when we come to that point, we'll go ahead and present something to the council. But we definitely like your input on that, especially where you're assigned. So I failed to invite you to that meeting, and we'll get you invited next time.
Would it have been a quorum if all three of us were there?
No.
Because it's two cities.
Yeah, because I don't have a vote.
Okay.
Except for, I could have voted on, no, I couldn't have voted on him. You guys have to vote on that. So the only other thing I can think of with the planning and zoning, just something that I want to let the council know really quickly that we talked about there is historically, when a decision has been made at planning and zoning, it's always come before the council for like ratification or and then sometimes I've seen where decisions made by planning and zoning have been changed and things by the council, and going back to state code, really, it's not me or giving the planning and zoning commission more authority. What I'm doing is helping everyone, even myself, understand what state code and what our own ordinances state that gives them the authority to make those decisions. So to give you an idea really quickly, one of the things that I think we've fallen into is that when somebody comes before us for a land use decision, we think we have the ability to tell them yes or no. And I think the planning and zoning has felt that they have the ability to tell them yes or no as far as whether they feel it should go or not. And really, it's not a matter of a feeling. It's a matter of what does the ordinance state. So the responsibility of the planning and zoning is to look at the ordinances and make sure that whatever the land use is going to be, or whatever the if it's for building or whatever it may be, that it fits within the ordinances. And if it fits within the ordinances, then it's approved. And if it doesn't, then it's denied. It's black and white. There is no, well, I feel like it should be approved, or I don't really like the idea, so I don't want it to go in. The ordinance states and it's allowed, it's allowed. And we need to remember that too as a council, because once the planning and zoning makes that decision, it's done. That's the end. Unless it's contested and appealed by the party looking for whatever outcome. Then they will come before the council. And the only way we can change the decision of the planning and zoning is if there is substantial evidence to prove that they have mitigated or changed their proposal to fit within our ordinances. So again, it doesn't come down to well, I feel like this ought to be approved, or you know what, I don't really like the idea, I'm gonna deny. If it fits within our ordinances,
Do the people, where do they get that information? Will the planning and zoning tell them?
that's
We
what should
deny
happen.
it, but if you wanna, here are our recommendations, if you wanna tweak this and take it, but they're told what they have to fix, to
Sure.
make it fit before they even come to us.
Correct. And then the other thing is if the planning and zoning sees that we need to make a change in our ordinance because it's outdated and we need to allow for that, something that we haven't allowed for in the past, that should follow the proper process, and then it's fair for everyone. One of the things that has plagued us is we have decisions that are made in favor of one person and denied another person, but they're the same circumstance. And so we're really avoiding that. But by educating the planning and zoning, I think we'll get away from that. And by educating ourselves and adhering to our ordinances, it'll be fair for everyone. But that was a lot of the conversation. And I could see that it did make an effect. Like they understood finally.
I thought they were impressed and like felt good about that they could do their job, you know, and as long as they were, like you said, following the code and not, you know,
Going
just
rogue.
it's this way or not, you know, period. And if they haven't met the parameters, then it's not, period.
Well, that's one of the things that's been brought out in the trainings lately is that's why they're so on to cities to have their ordinances updated, because that's your rule book.
Yep.
Right.
You can't just play it
By
off the
ear.
cuff.
Yeah.
You can't. You go to your rule book whenever you have a question or when somebody wants to do something, you say, well, this is what will be
Right.
required.
And one of the things that I've seen is we had several in just the last little while where they haven't made a decision. Many have abstained from the vote. So you don't even have a majority yes or no. And then it comes before the council. I said, that don't happen. That doesn't happen. You need to make the decision, but here's how you make the decision. If it fits within the ordinance, you say yes, because in state code, it says you shall.
You don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. And if it doesn't fit in our code, you don't let it happen either. You adhere to our code and say, no, unfortunately, we feel bad, but no, we can't do that. Now, if we want to change that, we have to go through the long process of changing the ordinance. And then, once that's changed, anybody else who comes in next will get the same treatment.
Right.
And it'll be allowed for all. So,
Some codes aren't clear cut either, so that's, I think.
Yeah, I like that part that you mentioned, if you say no because the code says this, but you don't think the code's correct or needs to be adjusted, that's where you can then bring it up, you know, and we can look at
Petition it.
and petition and all that. And I thought that's the way it should work. That to me seemed, you know, the right way to go than, you know, to somehow come to us and say, hey, would you redo the code here so we can do this, which, no, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really thought that was a great meeting and I learned a lot.
that's all I have. Do you have anything for us, Councilman White?
There was a meeting the ULCT board held today, just kind of a unplanned meeting, just dealing with the coronavirus. But the big thing that ULCT tries to do is unify all the cities in the state. Whenever it's dealing with legislation or whatever else, they want the state elected officials to see that the cities are unified. They're not each trying to do their own thing. So especially with this, they want to show that all the cities are following what the state, what the governor has recommended we do to follow these precautions for the spread of coronavirus.
Did you attend the meeting also?
It was just
Yeah, broadcast.
just a Zoom
Right,
meeting,
I
which
did.
our next several will. This one was right before the meeting. Probably. This one started at 10.
Oh, yeah, I went to the 1 o'clock one.
So, the big thing that they're trying to stress for people is to kind of stay in your own community as much as possible. Mayor of Moab was concerned because this is the time when lots of people are going on. And she's like, if you don't live here, we don't we love you, but we don't want you to come here. We're already taxed as it is, trying to take care of our own. Plus, we don't want to have to worry about outside people that we don't know where they're coming from. But, and I believe I've seen a release from Tri-County Health that has basically stated that already. And that's probably gone to the whole state. The other thing is, Spanish Fork, I sent this to the council in an email and Ryan Claiborne and Mayor. Spanish Fork, one of their council members is the president of ULCT, and their city put together just a little press release. And I've seen Ryan's email saying, you know, our city's open still, the services are taken care of. They're encouraging us to do that so people don't think, well, is my garbage gonna get dumped, or am I gonna be able to call the police? But they said, we get all these blasts of information from everywhere. And our citizens in our city are going to have a connection when we say it, more than when the governor says it or somebody else. So I sent that flyer out just as a model of if we wanted to do something more in that regard, trying to tell people to stay calm. You don't need to stock up on toilet paper. You know, we have other people that have immediate needs that if we go and raid the shelves, then they don't have any. And they're just trying to find ways to get that information out that people will listen and hopefully calm down a little bit.
The 1 o'clock meeting, they just added that they're working on, the governor's got, of course, a task force to look at, you know, employment and benefits and different things for people, trying to make sure we keep people working, but that they have money and doing different things. They also brought up the same idea about shopping in your community. The stores will be stocked. We don't, you know, they're not stopping trucks and things. The stores will be stocked. People need to not panic, and they're working as fast as they can to get the test kits for the coronavirus. They talked about that, and you know, Spencer, the Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox said something about there's some catalyst or something that they have to use, and they didn't have enough or something originally, and I think they're just in the process of getting that. But you know, they said, hey, don't stay in your community, but don't stay in your home. I mean, get out and about and do things. You know, live your life. Don't get shacked up where you're stuck just in the home doing nothing. You know, make sure you go out and do things, and that they're working as fast and as quickly as they can, and trying to keep things down, you know, with the schools and the colleges, you know, shutting down and doing those kind of things to help, you know, mitigate some of the spread. So
one of the things that I'd like to do is, I think we should, maybe if we could put together something like that, like Spanish Fork and Councilman White had said, and to go along with what Councilman Busenbark is saying, one of the things we need to focus on is the positive things that we can be doing, the outdoor activities that we can be doing, the sports activities, tennis, those types of things that aren't real close contact that we can be doing, and to keep, you know, just to live mostly normal lives. I mean, there's some things that we have to avoid, but to focus on the positive. And so maybe that's something that we could put together is a flyer or something like that, saying, here's what's going to continue. Here's the thing to watch out for. Here are some suggestions. We have a bird watching thing coming up, you know, Preston Cadillac's doing, you know, and
yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And so there's certain things, there's things that we ought to be doing and out and enjoying, but maybe that's something we can put together and get out there as well. So anything else? Councilman Baird.
So we've already discussed emergency stuff, and so I'm not. I did attend a safety meeting for the city, and they basically discussed, you know, how to handle it here in the city building. At that time, that was the 10th, but a lot has changed since then. So, or that was the 11th actually. But as far as finance and audit, we haven't had a meeting, but we did interview the new finance director, and now we have him, so that's great. That went really well. But other than that, I really don't have anything. So.
One thing I did mention on the fire or on the safety and things like that is maybe to get a meeting together with the fire chief and the police chief and have a separate meeting, maybe not talking about safety for employees, you know, but actually more talking about the safety and those types of things in our community. And so we'll look at that.
Yeah, we talked about that, and I think that's a good idea, because as a council representative for safety and stuff like that, I think there's two of us assigned, I'm one of them. But when citizens come forward and need something, it's good to direct them to council members, because in my opinion, we represent the community and we bring that to the city and so it wouldn't hurt to have that. Of course, it doesn't hurt for them to talk to the city as well, but.
By the way, Council, but I'm the other one and I showed up at 8:30. I thought it was at 8:30
Oh,
instead of 8.
gotcha.
So I saw you leaving as I came
I think
in.
I might have changed you on that,
Yeah,
Councilman Busenbark. I think I put Vince Riley on that where he's a
that's
first, kind
fine.
of a
I don't
first
really
responder
care.
and those types of things.
I just
And-
was originally planning to go because it fit my schedule during the day. So I just was going and then
Sure.
I showed up late, but that's fine.
I looked at the layout and everybody had the way it is now. And if everyone okay with their assignments? Everyone has an equal amount now. And to make that switch, it gave you like 5 and him 2. And I was like, well, if I do that or something like that. Anyway.
I'm always better if I'm busy anyway. It keeps me out of trouble.
But I did switch that where he's there. So yeah. Anything else for us? No. Okay.
Mayor, I got a question on that safety meeting. Would you want the EMT there as well, or someone to
You
represent?
talk
Vaughn
about
Riley
during the city-
or Vaughn
During the city.
Johnson would be good.
Yeah, Vaughn Johnson would be.
Because usually when we meet, we always kind of have fire and police. I mean, we kind of do things together and work together, so I don't know.
So are you talking about the employees' safety meeting?
No.
Oh, the other
This is a
meeting.
separate meeting.
I think it'd be great to have representation from every agency that's, related to safety in our city. And then, what were you asking, bringing some like outside people in?
Vaughn would
EMT.
represent.
Yeah, Vaughn Johnson.
So if we had the fires
Yeah.
and police, then we could have the medical.
I think it'd be great to have them.
I think it's good to communicate, for sure, like with
Yeah.
outside entities, with the city, just keep that communication running, because they may have some things that they'd like to see us improve on or not do,
I forgot one thing
Yeah.
before we move on.
Okay.
The mid-year conference is canceled for ULCT. So if you were planning on going, they'll send the city back a refund. But it will not be rescheduled. They were a little bit worried because a lot of the money that their budget gets comes from sponsors in that. So if we do business with any of those people that sponsor ULCT, they were wanting us to kind of reach out and thank them for their support and sponsorship of the league, and just so we don't make them have a harder time.
Yeah.
cancel your hotel reservation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilman Riley.
So I haven't met with any of the things yet, but as I mentioned with the airport, the airport's a big financial drain on the city. And I think because it uses so much of the city's resources that it needs to be accountable. And we need to be able to show how much we're making for fuel, how much we're spending for improvements, how much we pay employees in servicing the airport. And then, you can't make an idea of what you're going to do to make it better unless you know what the checkbook looks like. We don't want to treat it like the redheaded stepchild and make it its own little world that we don't know what we're spending on it, what bucket, how much we're pouring into that empty bucket. So we're gonna start putting all those numbers together so that we can talk about those things. And then like I'd mentioned before, who buys the most gas there? Maybe they need a golf invitation to come back more often, because a single jet comes in, he may spend $3,000-$4,000 in fuel purchases, things like that. The other thing with the emergency management, because of my connection with the hospital and stuff, just so everybody knows, and I think the word needs to get out that, coronavirus for most people, if you don't have one of the 5 major complications, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, like in other words, you need a bypass, COPD or some disease that causes lung problems, because that's the main effect, is it's a breathing issue. So if you're a healthy individual and you get a high fever and you start getting a dry cough, those are the 2 signals, and you don't need medical care and it can be managed with aspirin, please call your doctor's office and ask them what they want you to do. But most likely the best thing for you to do is stay in your home and don't drive to the hospital. By all means, if you're having difficulty breathing and you feel like you need to, you can't catch your breath, you need to go to the hospital. But realize when you get to the hospital, once this starts here in the basin, you're going to be outside in your car. You're going to be asked to stay in your car so there's no cross-contamination with the hospital. Because once you contaminate the hospital without all the preparations, then the nurses get sick and then the doctors get sick. And there's only a limited number of things they can wear and masks they can wear. So if you show up at the hospital, they're going to ask you to stay in your car or go out, back out to your car. And if you do identify as those symptoms and you don't need emergency medical care, they're going to ask you to go home and self-quarantine until the test results come back. And then if you do come back positive, again, you'll be managed from home because they only have a limited number of vents to be able to put people on ventilators, and they don't need people. So they're going to actually start. I think yesterday they closed most of the doors into the hospital, the urgent care clinic. They're probably going to set up a tent outside to start screening folks. So just know that that's going to be going on. And
There's a tent outside clinic number 2 and outside the ER.
yeah,
And there's a sign there that you call a number first, and then they will call the people in the hospital if you need to be tested. You don't even get out of your car.
yeah. So remember, those are the 2 signs: a high fever and difficulty breathing with a dry cough. And again, if you're young and healthy, self-manage and isolate. Don't go to the store and don't come to city council meeting.
You probably saw the
Darn.
from the school district, they're gonna allow students in tomorrow, but at limited numbers and go in, get what you need, take care of what you need, and then get out.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get all the teachers to put everything online, so.
I think we decided to, the employees too, aren't you guys just gonna take a month off? Something like that, like shut everything down, a month off. Because I was planning on going to the mountain for a month and self-quarantining up there.
And that's something we ought to look at the city as, if you guys, whoever's manning that front desk, someone probably ought to have a mask or a couple masks available. If it gets to the point where we start getting cases in the city, I mean, you can't just shut the fire department and the dispatch down. Dispatch is protected, luckily. Nobody's going to cough on them, but, city employees.
One of the things that, well, and I think you saw it, is they've asked everyone to not come in if they don't have to and to pay online and make phone
Right.
calls, and that's helped.
It's been slow
That's good.
It worked though, didn't it?
for some, yeah.
That's good.
Anything else, Councilman Riley? Councilman Allen?
No, everything was covered. I wasn't able to make it to the Parks and Rec, but thanks for covering, talking about that. The other 2 assignments, who would we, the meetings are as needed, but who would we meet with for the city beautification and cleanup?
So that's one thing that Interfaith Council has assisted with in the past. So Dee Cairoli would be a good contact there. We try and coordinate that with the Duchesne County cleanup period. So they'll have a period in the spring where they do a free cleanup.
Right.
And we try to do that at that time.
Probably coming up pretty soon though, in April.
Yeah.
So we may want to, of course, that might be pushed back with this
Another one,
situation we're in, but.
yeah, another one for you is Lynn and what's her husband's name? Smith, Dr. Smith.
Oh, really?
Can't, they were doing that as well. I'm wondering if there's another one that's been involved with that.
For city beautification, not necessarily the cleanup, but
Yeah.
a good city beautification contact would be Vivian and Keith Winterton. They've done a lot of that in the past too, so.
And then what was the other one?
Water.
So the water, that one, you know what, we do have, we'll need to get you involved more. We've been having some meetings with Cedar View here and there. We don't really have many with Johnson Water anymore, but as those come up, we'll let you know.
Okay.
We haven't had one since I think we've made the assignments, but if we have an assignment in the future, we'll have you. And then we'll have you be involved with that.
You probably ought to be involved with the project.
Absolutely.
CIB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which will probably get canceled next week.
When are we supposed to go to that?
The
When's-
main CIB or
When are we going to present?
May?
Yeah, so plan on that one with us. And we'll try to get you up to speed.
Yeah, we'll have a couple meetings before to kind of prep on our presentation, so, and you'll do the presentation.
Yeah. You're passing it off.
You can tell Ryan doesn't want to do it at all.
You did a good job.
I keep hearing these horror stories about it, so all right, let's do it.
You know what, that's a good question. So do you have anything else,
No one.
Councilman Allen? So the question was, do we have any updates on the manager search? And so what has been interesting, to say the least, there was a flyer that was proposed that was sent to the city and all the council saw that. We made the recommendations and sent it back. Thought that it was clear. Then the flyer came back to us and the recommendations were not implemented in the flyer. They did make some changes, but it was interesting. Anyway, long story short, so we got with the city attorney again and made sure that it was clear. The city attorney sent it out the second time, which was last Thursday. Haven't heard anything, so I tried to call today, left a message with Jim Mercer, haven't heard anything back. But I'm hoping, really, once the suggestions were gathered from the council, we had changed the body of the flyer to say exactly what we wanted to say, that incorporated all those changes. If they just take that and create the flyer off that, it's a non-issue, it'll be done. But that's not what they did, and so that's what we suggested the second time, is just take this, these are the changes that we already wanted to make, no more, no less, and do that, and it'll be a done deal. So I'll try him again tomorrow. I called him, 11 o'clock today? I called and got his voicemail, left him a message, haven't heard back. I'll try him again tomorrow. But yeah, it should be a really simple thing, and then they should be able to go to town on it. So we already have had how many applicants?
Wow.
Yeah, through
But I mean, that was
city.
like
That's
November, I mean, that was from when you very first posted.
yeah. So we've had several that we passed on to him, 25 or 30, and then
Mhm.
he'll obviously add the pool of people that he has. They'll start narrowing it down. But that flyer is the hang up, and I don't know.
And those 25, 30 applicants came through the
Just
Department
like
of
the city-
Workforce Services
The
and
city
stuff.
websites where you had posted it prior. And I have reached out to all of them to see if they were still interested or not still interested, and then sent them to Mercer, so.
And I think the majority of them were, right? Still interested.
Yes.
So, and Melissa's been doing a fantastic job, by the way, helping us out. We really appreciate her. If we'd have known better, we'd have just hired her and probably done it that way. No, I'm just kidding. I think Mercer's will do a good job. Hopefully we can get a hold of them and just get the ball rolling, but it's been a slower process than anticipated. And
Especially for Ryan. Ryan's like, yeah, it's way too
well, and I was
slow."
gonna say, the staff have been great. I mean, for me personally, and I've super enjoyed the last 4 or 5 months, to be honest with you. I mean, it's been night and day difference. I think the employees, there's just a different feeling, at least when I come in the building. I don't feel like anybody's walking on eggshells anymore, and I feel like we've been coordinating and collaborating, and it's just been a team effort, and I think they've been doing a great job, so thank you guys for that.
I noticed we have these pens. Are we supposed to leave these here? It's a felony to take it home, right?
It is, I think
Good
they're,
listening.
I think they are trying
I
to,
have, that's why I brought my own. Even
I'm
said
leaving it
it's
here.
tea.
Does anyone have anything else tonight? We're at the end of our
We're at
city
the
manager.
report
Do you have anything for us?
Just a couple little things. Sorry, I gotta get out.
You have a half hour.
Oh wait, I did want to show something. Where are you? So last week we went to,
Oh, nice.
Rural Water, not last week, 2 weeks ago. Went down to Rural Water and, they presented this award to us. So Kirby and Brian went up and said hi to the world and got a picture taken, but. Cool. So outstanding wastewater service to customers 19, and we probably know why we got this award. How much did it cost?
$5.1 million. That's all.
What is it, Stonegate?
I think it's-
So make sure you put
was-
that behind a bulletproof case and have lights and stuff on it, and make it nice.
That was a good
Costs
portion
that
of it, is completing the project with Stonegate.
Yeah, yeah. So it was good, get recognized for something, and it's always a positive thing to have right now, especially, so. We already talked about the project, so I won't get into them, the 500 East and the airport, I won't go. The golf course is open. We're still running as usual, haven't done anything with this Corona thing with it, so. The aquatic center, you do know that it's closed. Normally in 2 weeks, it would have been closed for a week anyway, for their annual cleaning. So what we're doing is taking advantage of that and just gonna clean through the week. And then the crews, we're gonna actually have, go up to the Golf Pro shop, clean it, come down here and clean here. Just kind of do more of a thorough deep clean until we get this 2 weeks out of the way, so.
So we won't have anyone that'll be out of work.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep. And here, we're just kind of hanging low. I mean, if there's something you guys want us to do, as far as the next step, let us know. If there's something you suggest, but we've been going the extra mile as far as cleaning, and we've contacted our people who clean the building to kind of go a little more thorough. I have been way nervous. I think Trevor's sick of me spraying Clorox. The whole place smells like it, but I'm really concerned with Vicky. So I did tell her to stay home. I don't want her in here, so until this blows away. I don't know if it blows away, but
How is she doing?
she's doing all right. Yep, she's doing all right. She's hanging in there. She's tough as nails, and
Yes, she is.
we love her, so we want her to get healthy.
One thing, I don't know, you might have, was going to mention it, but one thing that the staff did is gave up some of their vacation, comp time and those types of things to contribute to Vicky so that she can be paid while she's taking leave to fight cancer.
Yeah.
And so that, I think that was super good of the employees to do, to pull together and give up their time to her so that she can do that. So.
Yeah, that's a pretty neat thing to.
Says a lot about her.
So far as regular day things, you'll see the crews out more now. We're gonna be, they're hitting the streets already, cleaning the streets, and the roads, and trying to get, there'll be trees planted. I don't know if you wanna be involved with that. I did get Dustin to plant a few trees in certain areas that I thought needed it. One question I do have is the trees out front here, the pine trees, are you guys attached to them, or, if we go cut one down, is there gonna be a?
Do you need to cut one down?
For the
I
roots
kind of
getting-
like them, but unless they're,
They've been a real maintenance problem as far as all the pine needles and stuff, and they're kind of dirty, but
So you're thinking of thinning them out a little bit?
I've been approached, and I'm a tree lover, so I don't know, I'm kind of like, whoa. we cut 'em
do you know how hard it is to get something to grow like that here?
So what I'm thinking is maybe trim them up a little bit, and then we'll just go from there. But, yeah, I know I threw something out that would be sensitive.
So if you offset, if you have a reason to remove a tree and you have tree huggers, if you planted a bunch of trees, and I say that in a kind way, I love trees, I hug them. But if you planted some other trees in another place, another park to compensate for the loss, you're kind of offsetting any public perception or anger that might be created.
Yeah, that's what they do in Washington, where I'm from. They cut out the forest for whatever they're making, and then they replant and have signs up. This will be cut down in 2025, and it was replanted in 2000 whatever, and I mean, they do that all the time because they need the trees.
Well, that sounds like a good idea. Clean them up a little bit.
I do like that idea.
I might clean them up. Well, approach, I was like, I don't know if I should like start talking.
Really quickly, sorry to cut you off. I just got a text now. Really, if you get a text, you should say it in the meeting. I won't say who, but there's an individual watching and he's saying, you're very quiet at the podium. Well, whoever's at the podium here, so we'll have to have you speak up a little bit. That's something we might take care of in the future. And it's these mics here, this one and that one, but I don't know what we have there. But anyway,
Is
maybe.
this mic
That's-
on?
No, it's these two.
You have two
And-
little ones.
Yeah.
I'm
little
always
bit.
loud. It doesn't matter. It's my coaching voice.
The only reason I mention that is
Is it just me or is
Your
it?
location.
I think it might be
Everyone.
you and the location, so that's something to take into consideration when we have the next meeting, especially if it's going to be a public hearing that's online. We'll need to make sure that the public can hear us.
I wonder if we move the
Yeah.
podium a little closer.
So
Well,
anyway,
how about if we just put these up, if the cord was long enough to just set them up here?
that's a possibility. So one thing that we'll do too, I'll go back with that. That's all that we need to say about that, but just a thought, I thought I'd hurry and throw it out there because I was looking at my thing and cheating, so. Go ahead, carry on with your trees.
And what we could say is that, so that they hear what you were saying, we could reiterate what you were saying, that you love the trees so much you don't want to cut them down and that you're gonna try trimming them up.
Who's taking care of the trees currently?
No one really. I mean,
Okay.
there's a company, who is it that,
They don't do trees.
yeah, they don't do the trees.
So who maintains that stretch right there?
It should be Dustin,
Okay.
will do the trees, but, we haven't really done
So
nothing with
what's the
them.
clearance underneath them right now?
Well, I'm the one that brought it up, that part was, right now, you can't walk down the sidewalk without getting hit in the head, but,
Yeah, and that's a simple fix with pine trees. I mean, you just cut them off at the trunk, however many you need.
I told not the maintenance crew, but the park crew, to go trim them up, clean them up, so.
And then they're like, well, let's just get rid of them.
Tear them down, so.
Just so you know, Ryan, sorry to interrupt. The clearance is 7 foot is what it should be.
Minimum.
So is our signs minimum. 7 foot.
Okay.
It's not a big issue, I just wanted to make sure.
I say keep the
It
trees.
sounds like it is.
Yeah.
Nah, I'd say keep the trees for now.
I did skip one thing on the front, the recreation, the ball games are all canceled. And softball and baseball is still have you gotten an update?
No, nothing as far as cancellation. There's, I can find the email. Stuff's kind of up in the air.
What email I saw was that they were extending the sign-up time a little bit, but the practice times were kind of postponed, but the game times, they were hoping still would be able to go through because they were 8 weeks out.
Yeah,
Yeah, we haven't got an update on that. Brent's kind of correlating with teams from the city and stuff, because there's actually tournaments that have been canceled. So anyway, I think that's all I have. I don't want to get too far, so. Alright.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, unless there's anything else, we'll motion to adjourn. Or entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Baird and a second by Councilman White. All in favor?
All right.
Go home. Thank you all. So
I still made flaws.
we need to work on that. You're right. We need to get together on that.